But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit.
Psalms chapter 17, verse 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. Shalom Yasharala, peace Israel. Kal Halayim La, Alahayin Awa, Abanawa, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham Rakapadash. All praise to our power, our Father, Yahweh, in the name Yahushai, in the name Holy Spirit. Double honor to our elder apostles and elder bishops, great millstone. Peace and blessing to you hopeful elect out there. You brothers teaching this word in truth and in sincerity. Okay? Yahweh Shai will make you elect like him. Yahweh Shai will make you hopeful elect out there just like him. He's gonna make you just like him, and he's gonna give you everything in due season. Okay? I'm reading the scripture again, and then I'll get another. Just gonna read two scriptures in the Psalms. Psalms chapter 17 and verse 15 again. As for me, and this is Psalm of David, and we know King David was an Israelite, or should I say he is an Israelite, okay? So this verse right here is only for the Israelites, beginning with the elect. Those are part of the house of David, because King David himself, he wrote this. Psalm 17 and 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness, meaning you will behold this truth. Okay? This truth is the Lord's face, his image. You're looking at his face in righteousness by you understanding this truth. Okay? He opened up your mind to receive this word. You understand and believe in the true proper name of Yahweh. You understand and believe in his son, Yahweh Shai. You know that we're the Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand this truth. So you're beholding his face in righteousness, and you're understanding these scriptures. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness, meaning when you're changed. When Yahweh Shai returns to this earth, he's gonna quicken you. He's gonna give you life. When you receive that new body, it's like you're waking up for the first time. Totally refreshed, totally renewed, totally rejuvenated. A whole new world, a whole new life. That's how it's going to be when you receive that immortal body. You will be satisfied when you awake with his likeness, meaning you're going to be changed and you're going to be just like him. Because he is the perfect model. He is the archetype. So for you hopeful elect out there, you're being made into different versions of Yahweh Shai. When he returns to this planet Earth, he's going to make you just like him. First, he gave you his truth. You have his truth by way of his death and resurrection, because Yahweh Shai had to die for us to receive this truth, this word. So you're beholding his face by you looking at this word. So you see Yahweh Shai all the time. You see Yahweh Shai by way of this word, because he is the word. He comes in the volume of the book. And the more you get into this book, the more you're becoming like his image spiritually. And when he returns to this earth, physically, you're going to be like, physically, you're going to be changed. And you're going to receive that new covenant, The law, statutes, and commandments will be in your mind. You're going to be programmed to do righteousness. Okay? You will have the law, statutes, and commandments downloaded within your brain. You're going to be satisfied when you awake with his likeness, meaning when he returns, he's going to beam you up, deliver you, and you're going to be just like him. And he's going to give you everything. He will give you everything, man, because he himself received everything. Now, this is Psalms 16, beginning in verse 9. Therefore, my heart is glad. Now, this is Yahweh Shai speaking in the spirit. Now, these are Psalms written by our beloved King David. But a lot of these Psalms, you hear Yahweh Shai in the spirit. Therefore, my heart is glad and my glory rejoiceth. Talking about Yahweh Shai. Because he knew that he was going to be resurrected after.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders, GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth, and then sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to a hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, and what we're gonna get into this morning, morning news and prophecy, the reality of a digital dollar. All right, because we know, that these devils, are working, from every angle. All right, setting up, this digital enslavement. Okay. And the leverage that they have on the masses, is that everybody depends on this monetary system, okay, which is called the dollar. Okay. People, over the years, over the decades, Esau has stripped away people from being self-sufficient, okay, and learning, and knowing how to survive, without the government playing the middleman in their survival. Okay. So now that, this devil, has gotten the masses, to depend on him for their very survival, he has the leverage, and as he's getting ready to switch, okay, how people, buy and sell, which will be a major component of this mark, this charagma, the MOTB, the buying and selling aspect. Okay, well, we know, all right, that everything is going digital, and that charagma, okay, is going to contain, all right, your digital wallet, the MOTB. Okay, and as we see this devil, there's more talks about, digital ID, being implemented, in Canada. We did the lesson the other day. All right, you have in Canada, where certain grocery stores, have putting up gates, okay, to where you can't get in without, the digital, okay, ID. Okay. So we see, all right, that this devil, he's rolling it out. Okay. And now I got a video, and in this video, he's making it seem as if there's some type of debate of which, there's some type of back and forth between the politicians of which way, they're going to go with the economy. Okay. But we already know which way, all right, the devil is going to go with this economy. Okay. The MOTB system, you see? So let's get a few precepts. All right. And then we'll go into the video. So let's go here. Let's get Proverbs 22. Okay. And this is the main way, okay, that this devil, all right, these elites control the masses is through debt. Okay, when you go to Proverbs 22:7, and this is one of the principles of how the elites, run the earth, by keeping people impoverished, debt slaves. Proverbs 22:7 said the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Okay, So this man has a system, to where he, all right, push these governments in debt. Okay. And in turn, what does the government do? They put their citizens in debt. Okay. Because these governments, we hear about the debt of these different countries. Well, who are they in debt to? Well, they in debt to the bankers. Okay. And if you, all right, your country is in debt to the banker, all right, to the bankers, well, you're in debt to the government. Okay. So this is why people are born, all right, with debt. I think you can look at it, each American is born, already owing, over $70,000 in debt, based on how much, the American government owes the bankers, man. So it's a very corrupt system that this devil has, to where, where scripture say the borrower is subject to the lender, So he has a system that's meant for you to never, be from under his debt. Okay. Which he just creates a world for the debt slaves. Okay. Let's see. If he give us some. All right, so let's go here. I just looked up debt slave real quick. Quick AI overview. Okay. And this is the system, okay, which these bankers rely on, to keep people in bondage. Okay. It says a debt slave. It said a debt or debt bondage means someone pledges their labor or services to repay a debt, but the terms are unclear, the debt is excessive, or the wages are too low. All right. So it's intentional how, the wages, the way this man has set wages. All right. The way money has inflated, okay, to where wages don't keep up with the debt anymore. It's a runaway debt. All right. And there's no way to catch this debt with these wages. Okay. And it says, and what does it do? It keeps people in bondage. Okay. It keeps people having to what? Commit their labor to the system to try to stay alive. Okay. This man has created a money system where people are in survival mode. Okay. So it says a debt slave or debt bondage means someone pledges their labor or services to repay a debt, but the terms are unclear, the debt is excessive, or wages are too low, trapping them in forced labor akin to slavery where they can never truly pay it off. It's a common form of modern slavery where the lender controls the worker indefinitely. Okay, it's a common form of modern slavery where the lender, okay, controls the worker indefinitely, often with undefined work hours and little or no pay, making escape nearly impossible. Okay, and this is the system that this man has established throughout the earth, okay, to where the masses are indebted unto him. This is the way that this man in the scriptures say have heaped into himself all people. I think that's in okay, in the book of Habakkuk chapter 2. Okay. Because this man, he can never be satisfied, man. And he doesn't only have, and he has generations in debt. It's already set up to where when you have children, they're born into debt. They're born into your debt. Your debt spills over to them. You see, this generation owes so much debt that it spills over to the next generation, man. Okay, this is the system that this man, okay, has established, man. All right, Habakkuk 2:5 says, yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keep it at home. All right, who enlarges his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations and heap it unto him all people. Okay, so this man gathered to himself all nations and heaping unto him all people. Okay, and what's the main all right, way that he does that is by creating the debt slaves, man. Okay, heaping debt in the earth, man. You know, to where the mass majority of the population are in debt to the bankers. You know, to where you're just a perpetual debt slave and he owns your labor. You see, capitalism, okay, was a way for these elites to begin to own the labor of the masses, man. Okay, the only thing that you have to trade off in this system is your labor. Okay, that's why they use you for your labor, then you out of there. Okay, that's the only use that they see for the masses. Okay, is their labor. Okay, now let's go here. Let's go back to Proverbs, Salaki. Yeah, let's go back to Proverbs 22. Okay, go back to the AMP. Get a couple more precepts, and then we'll segue to this video to show you, okay, what the devils have in the mix. Okay, and this is back in Proverbs 22. Jump down to verse 16. All right, Proverbs 22 and 16. It says, "He who oppresses or exploits the poor to get more for himself, or who gives to the rich to gain influence and favor, will only come to poverty, man." You know, and all these schemes and plots, you know, that this devil, okay, these wicked system that this devil has set up in the earth to enrich himself, you know, and to impoverish the masses. All right, at the end, he's gonna come to poverty, man. He's gonna get ready to lose everything, man. You know, and all they do is enrich themselves and create systems to enrich, all right, these few families, man. You know, while the rest of the majority fight over the scraps, over the crumbs. Okay, but because this man is doing that, he's gonna come to poverty, man. He's gonna get ready to lose everything, man. Okay, and go into captivity, even himself. You know, Esau, Edom, he's even finna lose himself, man. You know, for what you know he's doing in the earth. Okay, which is injustice, man. Proverbs 22 and 22 said, "Do not rob the poor because he is poor and defenseless, man." You know, and this system is predatory, because going back to capitalism, it's predatory capitalism. You know, because capitalism, um, you know, if ran right, it could be okay. It's still not, you know, how, you know, it's still not how you know, wealth, you know, should be. It's still not a economy system, okay? Because in capitalism, there's still room for people, all right, for people to create monopolies, and it creates an elite, okay, a small elite, okay, and a mass majority of poverty, okay. But this man, he just makes it extra wicked to where it preys on the poor, okay, because we're not going to have a capitalist society, okay. After these heathens serve their captivity, you know, they're going to be able to have lands, and they're going to be able to be self-sufficient. They're still going to answer to us. They're still going to pay tribute, okay. That we still going to they're still going to be in servitude, okay. But they're going to be able to have, you know, lands, and that land produced for them, okay. In capitalist society, you know, you need labor. See, in capitalism, labor fuels that system, okay. So it takes a lot of labor to fuel that system, you see, and it only enriches a small, all right, group, okay, that has the capital, okay, to set up infrastructure to where they can capitalize off other people's labor, man. You know, so let's see, Let's see if he give us something. So let's go here, because what this devil runs as system is predatorial, all right, capitalism, all right, and now it has morphed into what they call techno feudalism. I got a lesson going into that tonight that thoroughly explains that. Found a little video, all right, with this thing, little Asian chick. She's thoroughly going into it, okay, about techno feudalism, and this is what predatory capitalism has morphed into. All right, a thing of techno feudalism. And she's gonna, she explains that pretty good. So Lord will, that video, we'll do go into that tonight. But it says predatory capitalism refers to a form of capitalism where profit, all right, maximization is pursued through unethical and exploitative practices that harm workers, consumers, and the environment. So it not only harms the workers and consumers, but also the environment. Okay, and who benefit? Okay, the few elite, the major corporations. Okay, so the system that's set up today is predatory capitalism. You know, Capitalism itself, is already, subjugated to, being manipulated. But see, this devil took it to a whole nother level, to where he maximizing his profits at the expense, okay, of the workers, the consumers, and the environment. Man, he don't give a damn. That's why scripture speak about destroying them that destroy the earth. Okay, it says it is characterized by prior towards and short-term gains for a few over the long, all right, for a few over the long-term well-being of the majority. Okay, so it's about prior towards and short gains for a few over the long-term well-being of the majority, often through tactics like wage stagnation, aggressive market manipulation, deregulation, and exploitation of vulnerable population, which is the poor. Okay, which the scriptures just spoke on that. Let's get it. Um, let's go back to it. All right. Let's go back to it. The scripture just spoke on that. Okay. It says Proverbs 22 and 22. Do not rob the poor because he is poor and defenseless. Okay. But predatory capitalism, it thrives off the poor. It thrives off the poor, being in survival mode. Okay. That's why they're able to pay you low wages. Okay. That's why they don't mind you working in these harmful conditions. Okay. Because you're vulnerable, you're in survival mode. You see? So this is a system, that preys on the poor. Okay, it said nor crush the afflicted by legal proceedings. Yeah, certain legislation. Okay, the fact that you still, I think the lowest minimum wage that's on paper is like $5. $5.15. I believe it's in Wyoming somewhere. Why? Okay, because people are what, desperate. You see, it says at the gate. I said, well, the city court is held, man. So this man whole system, it preys on the poor. All right, which the scriptures speak against that, man. And this is why this devil's finna be stripped from everything, and he's finna be in poverty, man. Because he has impoverished many. Okay, so let's go here and see. This is so much wealth, and this man has so much wealth, man, that he could still be straight, and everybody else can be good too. Okay, well, all this technology and the speed and production, okay, that technology has created, this man could be well off, and everyone else could be straight too. Okay, but he's the wicked. All right, he's not wired to do right. So let's go here now. this video, this guy, he's gonna go into um the Digital Dollar Act. All right, and what we're gonna see, okay, is this the devils are acting like, there's politicians that's against this, because politicians, government is like WWF, it's wrestling, it's fake, it's stage. Okay, it's like reality TV is staged and scripted. Okay, so you're gonna have, certain politicians making it seem as if they're against it and they're voting it down. All right, then you're gonna have certain politicians that are gonna act like they want to regulate it. Then there's gonna be certain politicians that act like, that we have to, accelerate, the digital dollar so we won't be left behind. And, they're acting like they're in this competition with China and everything. Okay, but it's all an act. These devils already have what they want to do. All right, in the works. Okay, so you're gonna hear as if there's, you know, they're shuffling through options. As if they're, debating or going back and forth on certain options when the play is already made, and they're building the infrastructure for what they want to do. Okay, so let's play this. All right, and we'll expound. If a brother could get that what's that, Isaiah 10:1, Isaiah chapter 10 verses 1 and 2, Bible Shop. So let's play this.
The government is about to fundamentally change how money works in America, not gradually, not through some distant policy proposal, but through legislation that's already moving through Congress right now. The Digital Dollar Act represents the most radical transformation of American currency since we abandoned the gold standard in 1971. And what they're not telling you is that this isn't just about convenience or modernization. This is about control. Complete, total, unprecedented control over every dollar you earn, every purchase you make, every financial decision in your life. Right now, as you're watching this video, your representatives in Washington are debating whether to give the federal government the power to track, monitor, and potentially restrict every single transaction you make. No more anonymous cash purchases, no more financial privacy, no more ability to spend your money without government oversight. The Digital Dollar Act isn't just changing how we use money, it's changing who controls money. And the answer isn't you anymore. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what the Digital Dollar Act contains, how it will transform every aspect of your financial life, and why the debate happening in Congress right now will determine whether America remains a free market economy or becomes something entirely different. I'll break down the competing versions of this legislation, show you which politicians are fighting for what, and explain why some of the world's most powerful financial institutions are quietly positioning themselves for this transition. But first, let me show you what's already happening that most Americans don't even know about. The House of Representatives just passed the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act by a vote of 216 to 192. That's legislation specifically designed to prevent the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency without congressional approval. The vote was almost entirely along party lines, Republicans arguing that a digital dollar could give the federal government unprecedented surveillance powers over American citizens. Democrats claiming that blocking digital currency development could leave America behind in global financial competition. But here's what neither side is telling you. The real Digital Dollar Act isn't just one piece of legislation. It's multiple competing bills, each with different approaches, different levels of government control, and completely different implications for your financial freedom. The first version, the one getting the most attention, would authorize the Federal Reserve to create what's called a central bank digital currency.
So they passed, the Digital Dollar Act, which stops, all right, the Federal Reserve, which the Federal Reserve is owned by the central bank, not by the American government. Okay, and that's why, we went over this before. They call it the Federal Reserve to make it seem like it's government ran, all right, but it's privately owned by these central bankers. Okay, so this act of Congress, the Digital Dollar Act, it prevents, the Federal Reserve, from creating a central bank digital currency without the approval of Congress, which they're going to get the approval of Congress to do this. Okay, so they put that act in place as if they have the well-being of the people in mind. Okay, like they're trying to prevent corruption from the Federal Reserve. Okay, so people hear that and be like, see, our Congress, they're still legitimate, they're still legitimate, you know, good politicians, who care about the people. The scriptures say the simple, believe every word. Okay, so it's like, okay, we're not going to come with a new, style of currency until the Congress vote on it. Now it's going to go into the so-called debate about which direction they want to go. And the first one that they're finna explain, this is the one they're going to go with. Okay, but they're making it seem as if they're shuffling through these options. Okay, as if they're undecided about what they want to do. They know exactly what they want to do. Okay, and the Congress is bought and paid for. All right, these things have already been decided. Okay, so now you're going to hear him go through these three different options, that they're supposedly shuffling through. But the first one is the one that they're going to go with. All right, and that's the one they already built the infrastructure for. All right, these data centers. Okay, these stores. Okay, getting this infrastructure for digital ID. Okay, pay with your palm. All these different, the stores. All right, getting, their infrastructure together to accept, okay, a digital dollar, digital currency. Okay, so they're rolling out the infrastructure for the first one already. The other two, all right, are just there to make it seem as if they're actually, debating and having counsel on which one they're going to do. It's there for fluff, it's there for entertainment. Okay.
Different approaches, different levels of government control, and completely different implications for your financial freedom. The first version, the one getting the most attention, would authorize the Federal Reserve to create what's called a central bank digital currency. Think of it as digital cash, but instead of being issued by private banks like your current checking account, it would be issued directly by the Federal Reserve. Every digital dollar would be a direct liability of the central bank. Every transaction would flow through government systems. Every purchase, every payment, every financial decision would be recorded, tracked, and stored by federal authorities. The Federal Reserve has been researching this for years through something called Project Hamilton, a collaboration with MIT to determine the technical feasibility of a digital currency that could handle the scale of the American economy. He made no final decision, but the research infrastructure is already built. But there's a second version of the Digital Dollar Act that takes a completely different approach. Representative Stephen Lynch.
Remember, he said that's the one that's getting the most attention. All right, and the research infrastructure is already built for that one. So they're already building that one out for the first one. All right, that's the one they're going to roll with. All right, is the central bank digital currency issued by the Federal Reserve, which are the elite bankers. Okay, well, he's finna go into these next few that he's finna go into. All right, they hold no weight. Okay, they just there. All right, so they can have something to vote against.
Lynch's Electronic Currency and Secure Hardware Act, known as the eCash Act, would require the Treasury Department to issue digital dollars through encrypted hardware devices. These devices would maintain transaction anonymity, similar to physical cash. You could store digital money on a hardware wallet, transfer it directly to other people without going through banks, without government monitoring, without transaction records being stored in federal databases. It sounds like the privacy-friendly alternative. But here's what Lynch's bill doesn't address. Who controls the hardware? Who manufactures these encrypted devices? And what happens when the government decides those devices need updates, backdoors, or remote monitoring capabilities? The third approach isn't even legislation yet. It's coming from state governments and private companies working together to create digital dollar systems independent of federal control. Some states are exploring blockchain-based payment systems using stable coins pegged to the dollar. Others are developing digital payment networks that operate outside traditional banking infrastructure. The goal is to create digital money that maintains the benefits of electronic transactions while preserving the privacy and independence that physical cash provides. But every one of these approaches faces the same fundamental challenge. How do you create digital money without creating the infrastructure for total financial surveillance? This isn't theoretical anymore. While Congress debates, other countries are already implementing central bank digital currencies at massive scale. China's digital yuan has processed over 7 trillion yuan in transactions.
So it's not going to be a system to where you bypass the bank and people are directly having transactions with one another. That's a no-go. Okay. You see, that ain't even an option. Okay, but they throw these things out there and people think, that they're concerned about your privacy, and they've been not concerned about your privacy, man. Okay. You see, they're setting up a surveillance state. Okay. Surveillance infrastructure. Okay. So the infrastructure for those last two options is not being built out, but the infrastructure for the first one, okay, is being built out. Okay. And we're going to show you. Okay. And then there's another thing they're going to keep pushing too, as if they're competing with China. They got to compete with China and catch up with them with AI, which causes, the government to deregulate, any restrictions on AI, pretty much let AI do what it wants to do. Okay. And then now they're saying that, China has this digital yuan and America has to catch up or get left behind, okay, with digital currency. Okay. So they're going to constantly push, the need to compete with China and Russia and other countries that are already rolling this thing out. Okay. So they're going to use that narrative as well. Okay. To get people to rally behind, okay, this digital currency, man.
That's nearly $1 trillion worth of digital currency transactions flowing through government-controlled systems. Chinese citizens can use digital yuan for public transportation, retail purchases, even tax payments. But here's what those transactions also enable. The Chinese government can track every purchase, monitor spending patterns, and link financial behavior to social credit scores. Spend money on something the government disapproves of, and your access to digital currency gets restricted. Buy from merchants the government wants to discourage, and those transactions get flagged or blocked entirely. China isn't the only country moving fast. Over 130 countries representing more than 98% of global GDP are exploring central.
And that's the system they want. All right. That system says China is just a model for what they want to do with the world. Okay. So that's why we've been going to China lately and how China has been operating and moving, because China is, all right, the elite's vision for the rest of the world. Okay. They want to get everyone else caught up to what they've done in China, because that's the China is the project of the elites. Okay. It ain't just Moab by himself, isolated, doing his own thing, and this is what they come up with. No, China has been the elites have invested heavily into China. Okay, China government is heavily influenced by elite bankers. Okay, so these ideas, okay, that China has, okay, this system that China has in place, social credit score, all right, this is the agenda of the elites. Okay, and China was just the perfect place to roll it out because of our already strict government, and that's why you see in America what they're doing. They're making the government more strict in America to prep it for, all right, this new system being rolled out. Okay.
Bank digital currencies. 11 countries have already launched them. The European Central Bank is developing a digital euro. The Bank of England is researching a digital pound. Russia, despite being under extensive financial sanctions, is working with China and other countries on cross-border digital payment systems that could bypass American banking infrastructure entirely. This is the competitive pressure driving American policy, not just the desire to modernize our payment systems, but the fear that other countries will develop digital currencies that challenge the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency. Some members of Congress argue that if America doesn't develop a digital dollar, we risk losing our position as the center of global finance. International trade could shift to digital currencies controlled by other governments. American banks could lose their central role in global transactions. The dollar could become a regional currency rather than the world's dominant money. But other members of Congress argue that.
So they saying, look, we got to compete or we going to fall behind. All right. So we got to celebrate, we got to come up with something. Okay. So they're creating a scenario where it's urgency behind this decision, dealing with a digital dollar, dealing with a digital currency, because 138 countries, which represents 98% of the world GDP, showing you that these devils have this thing rolled out, man. They're doing it. Okay, they are doing it. Okay, this is just a theater. Okay, them acting like they don't, like they trying to figure something out. It's already figured out. Okay, they just putting on this role. Okay, like they stuck betwixt. Okay, a decision. Well, it's being rolled out. By the time they, give you a decision, this thing gonna be up and running. Okay. Play some more.
This competitive pressure is exactly why America shouldn't rush into digital currency development. They point out that a government-controlled digital dollar could undermine the very economic freedoms that made the dollar dominant in the first place. Why would international businesses choose to use a currency that gives the American government complete visibility into their financial operations? The Federal Reserve's position has been deliberately cautious. Chair Jerome Powell has stated repeatedly that any central bank digital currency would require congressional authorization. The Fed won't move forward unilaterally, but the research continues. The technology development continues, and the policy framework continues to evolve. The Federal Reserve Act has already been amended to prevent the central bank from implementing a digital currency without explicit congressional approval. That amendment was necessary because the legal authority to create new forms of money has historically belonged to monetary authorities, not elected officials. But digital currency is different. It's not just new money, it's new infrastructure for monitoring, controlling, and potentially restricting how money gets used. The privacy implications are staggering. Physical cash transactions are anonymous by default. You hand someone a $20 bill, they give you goods or services, and there's no permanent record of that transaction. Digital transactions are the opposite. Every electronic payment creates data, account numbers, timestamps, merchant information, purchase details. That data gets stored, analyzed, and increasingly shared with government agencies. Credit card companies already provide transaction data to law enforcement when subpoenaed. Banks report suspicious transactions to federal authorities. Digital dollars would expand that monitoring exponentially, not just suspicious transactions, but every transaction. Not just when subpoenaed, but in real time. Not just major purchases, but every coffee, every tank of gas, every grocery store visit. The technical architecture being developed would make this surveillance automatic and comprehensive. Unlike current electronic payments, which flow through multiple private companies that can resist government demands for data, digital dollars would flow through government-controlled systems where transaction monitoring would be built into the basic functionality. The Federal Reserve wouldn't need to request transaction data from banks. They would generate the transaction data themselves. Every digital dollar would be programmable, trackable, and potentially controllable in ways that physical cash never could be. But this programmable aspect of digital dollars opens possibilities that go far beyond simple transaction monitoring. Programmable money means the government could embed restrictions directly into the currency itself. They could create digital dollars that expire after a certain date, forcing you to spend rather than save. They could create digital dollars that only work for specific types of purchases, preventing you from buying things the government considers harmful or unnecessary. They could create digital dollars that carry different interest rates depending on how you use them, encouraging some behaviors while discouraging others. This isn't speculation. The technology already exists. Smart contracts on blockchain networks can automatically execute predetermined conditions when specific criteria are met. Apply that same technology to government-issued digital currency, and you have money that can enforce government policy automatically. No need for audits, investigations, or court orders. The money itself becomes the enforcement mechanism.
The technology and infrastructure already exists for the first option. All right. So those other two options that they're, acting as if, they're juggling between is all fluff. Okay, because they're rolling out the infrastructure for the first option, man. Okay, and just like we've been telling you about this digital, all right, currency is going to be programmable. It's going to be so many nuances, within this digital currency. Okay, to where the devil can restrict, okay, and enforce policy through currency. Okay, this would be the absolute. This would be the worst system that you can give someone that's wicked. You know, to give someone that's wicked, okay, and a tyrant, all right, this type of power and control. This is the worst system to give them. Okay, and this is what the devil is trying to build out. This is what he's building out, man. you know, and that's why this new world order is, and people look at it, like we went into the lesson last night. People looking at China and how safe China is. They got the robot, security and the surveillance, and the crime rate is low. Okay, but they're not looking at this aspect. All right, or this man is going to, all right, take his control to a whole nother level with this programmable money. Okay, and they're not going into the horror stores. Maybe it's something I can look up. The horror stores of the social credit system in China. And maybe we just really, get into depth to what's really going on in China. Okay, because they give you these PG-13, all right, fairy tale stories like it's a utopia. Okay, but then when you really investigate what's happening, okay, the boots on the ground, it's completely different. Okay, but real quick, yep, see, brother got it. Precept. This is the brother Kazak Yahweh John 10:10. It said, "The thief cometh not, but to steal, kill, and destroy." Okay, it says, "I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." Man, so Yahweh Shai is letting you know to deal with this devil because Esau is the thief. Okay, Yahweh Shai was speaking about Esau, man. Okay, ain't no doubt about it. Yahweh Shai was speaking about Esau when he was speaking about the thief. All right, coming to steal, kill, and destroy. Okay, because that's all this man is about. He's already, drained the world, okay, of wealth. Okay, now he wants your decision making. He only wants you to have your own decision making. What you're going to eat for the day. You want to take your wife on a date, or you want to take your wife out of town. He wants to take that decision making from you, man. He already limited your resources for you to do particular things. Now he wants to take away your decision making, man. He wants you to be a goddamn child. In the new world order, all right, you people are his children. And he wants to put you back in kindergarten where you have to ask permission to do everything, man. I'd rather go back to the spirit realm. Yeah, yeah, that's IQ, to check out, man. Okay, but now, man, he wants to create a system where you a goddamn kindergartner, man. So you ask this, you got to ask this, you got to act a certain way in hopes to get permission, to do things that you do freely now. But how the hell that's an upgrade? But that's how he's going to sell it. So this is what's happening with we went into this Monday. I'm gonna play this video again. All right. So this is what is happening, okay, in Canada, dealing with the grocery stores. Okay, well, let's get this real quick. All right. It's your brother Quanah Waff. All right, GMS prayer always hopeful legacy. Isaiah 10:1. It said, "Woe unto them that decree righteous decrees and their right grievousness which they have prescribed." Okay, so this devil already has what he wants, because prescribed meaning pre before scribe written down. So he has everything already written down what he wants to do. He already has laws and things in place, all right, to forward what he wants to do. Okay, so this whole thing is if they're stuck between these decisions is some BS, man. It's already prescribed what he want to do. and to speed these things up. All right, prepare, to see false flags and certain events, that put, the government in the state of emergency where they can forward these things through. All right, under the banner of an emergency and national security. His nigga here, man. That's one of his other favorite terms too, is national security. Okay, he going national security to death. To push forward these wicked agendas. Okay, that he wants to push forward, man. It's already prescribed. All right, this is the brother Kazak Bun Yahweh, verse 2, Isaiah 10:2. Turn aside. All right, it says to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless, man. And he wants a continuing environment to where he can just take advantage of the poor, especially of Israelites, man. Because one thing about it, within this system, everybody suffers, but he makes sure that the suffering of Israel is on a whole nother level, man. You see, and I don't know what type of, and you niggas that have sold out, I don't know what type of position you think you're going to have with Esau. Like, you just going to be this nigga assistant in his new world order. You niggas that have sold out. I don't know what type of expectations you got. All right. For Esau, like what position, what type of status you think you're going to have in this new world order, man? Okay. You sell out niggas, man. Well, let's play this. And this was happening in Canada. Okay.
So if ever y'all like my shirt, my new shirt, I'm just out here trusting God. Listen, and that's who you got to trust. You can't trust these people. But the game plan is being shown to us here in America. If you go and Google Canada laws and all of that, matter of fact, you ain't even got to do that if you don't want to. I will put it in here so that you can see what they are planning for the Canadian people over there. And I promise you, some of that is going to land here in the United States. They are holding them hostage. You got to get this digital ID or you don't get your insurance. You don't get your health care. You don't get your taxes. You get what I'm saying. And also, I'm going to leave a clip in here of them actually having installed those gates that you can't get into the store with unless you scan it. They haven't put the scanner on there yet, but that's coming. And in this video, it's going to tell you about when that's coming. So they're rushing this forward. Canada's really about to hit it right now. And we are next. We are next. Can you imagine not being able to go into the grocery store because you didn't get your digital ID? You didn't give up your life to them, because that's what you're doing, giving up your life.
See that? This is new at the grocery store. Very soon you're going to have a QR code for your digital ID, or else you can't enter.
So this is a bit of an emergency broadcast regarding the digital IDs. Yesterday in Canada, Justin Trudeau met with all of our provincial premiers and basically told them that we will not be able to get funding for our healthcare unless the premiers agree to the digital IDs. I will show all the proof. Now, those of you who think that digital IDs are great, they are not. Let me show you what these digital IDs will actually entail when it comes to control. Here's an overview basically of everything that will be included into digital IDs. This can be found on the WEF website and also on all of the provincial and government websites. You will have healthcare. You will not be able to access any healthcare without this digital ID. Financial system, you will actually not even be able to carry out bank accounts or carry out anything online regarding financial transactions. Food and sustainability, this says for farmers and consumers, you will not be able to get into stores. You will not be able to even sell anywhere. Once they have this system in place, this is where the digital currency will come in. Travel and mobility, we saw that with the Arrive scam app. Humanitarian responses, which is basically just garbage garbage. It's in case something happens, they will be able to track and find you, including if you don't want anything injected in your body. E-commerce, you will not be able to shop online. Then you have social media platforms. You will literally need this ID in order to get TikTok, Twitter, or Facebook. No more fake accounts. You have e-government. So if you want your taxes done, any sort of benefits from there, you will need this. Then it gets even scarier. Telecommunications, you will not be able to actually get an internet provider without this digital ID, and they will be able to track you. And then up there you have smart cities, and we all know what those are. Those of you who think I'm lying, here's the federal condition. In order for us to access our money, our tax money, this is basically a hostage situation of our tax money. And what you will see is instigators, government instigators under Twitter, under Justin Trudeau, that basically say we need to push our provincial governments to, get the money so that we can spend it better. No, we don't. We actually need to call our provincial governments right now, today and tomorrow and every single day until they scrap this digital ID. They cannot pass this without our approval. So I need everybody in Canada to call your provincial governments and literally tell them that this is not going to happen. If we need to privatize, if we need to somehow get into a different...
No, baby girl, way past that now. Okay. You see? And they show you, those gates at the grocery store. But see, those gates are already in American grocery stores. A lot of Kroger, a lot of Walmart already have those gates. And the only thing that they're going to do now, because even in Costco, because they condition you in Costco, because you got to scan your member card to get into Costco. Remember, they usually just check it. You have Renee at the front, looking at your Costco ID. But now you got to scan your Costco ID. Okay, eventually, all right, it could be a digital ID. And eventually we know it's going to be that C-HIP. Okay, that's going to grant you access, okay, to buying and selling. Okay, this is what they're rolling out. Okay. Now, how can you explain sin in that, if the MOTB is sin, will it explain how you're going to be restricted from buying and selling, all right, through sin? Okay, and you'll never get a video on that, okay, because they cannot make a video, because even IUIC had to go into the central bank digital currency. They had to go into the CBDC. They had to mention it. Okay, well, how do you link that to sin? Nah, man, this is going to be a physical, because the MOTB is going to be indicator, identification. It's going to be a digital wallet, all right, and it's going to be your health records, all right, and everything else, man. All right. You see? So, yeah, man, they're rolling this thing out. And see, even let's go here real quick. Quick little video brother had posted. Okay, it's on the way. The brother Gabar. He posted this on his channel, GMS Awakening 144. Subscribe and be edified. But let's play this real quick.
Yeah, I remember telling bros about this too. Just walk out technology. Just come in this spot. I really don't know how it works. It says enter with your credit card, shop at Fresh and Fast, and you're good to go. So I think you got to scan your card here, something like that. Grab what you got to grab, and then it's down there, bro. And then you up out of here. Yep. It's on the way. It's on the way. Yeah, I remember telling.
So yeah, man, they're prepping the infrastructure for it, man. This is what they're prepping for. All right, and I hope, okay, you see, in this place being destroyed, man. The Lord not allowing this man, to pull this off. Okay, as you go into the book of Job, Believe it's 20. All right, and 23. Let's get this. Make sure. Get a couple precepts, man. But there's no doubt what they're doing. You know, you can't explain it. You can't explain how this system works with sin. Okay, because you're going to be, restricted from buying and selling because you don't have enough sin. Your sin card, your sin ID is invalid. Okay, man. You see, so let's go to Job 20. All right, and 23. Okay, it says when he, all right, fills his belly, because right now, all right, he's making progress towards this agenda. Like I say, he has all these nations on board, all these governments on board. Okay, he has, this system, up and functioning, in different, countries, Sweden, China. Okay, which we know that our brothers are going to tap into it, man, to see what the hell they got going on over there, man. Because that's telling the story of what the elites want to do globally, man. It says when he fills his belly, the Most High will send his fierce anger on him and will rain it upon him while he is eating. Okay? So the Lord, is going to judge this man in the midst of trying to roll this out. And this is our hope. And see, we have an expectation beyond this. All right? You got Jake, their mind, all right, they don't see beyond this current system. And they worship this system, man. They look at this man's technology, okay, as a miracle. You can get a drone, they can give you your groceries and self-driving car. See, Jake look at that like, this is luxury, this is transcending, this is, but in the midst of this man rolling all this out, man, the Lord, all right, is going to judge this man. The Lord is going to show his anger. As you read about, the Lord hating Esau, well, it's really going to be shown when the Lord judges this man. Okay? That's why when you go to Malachi, all right, and we always get it in the NLT, okay, and we'll read up a little bit, okay, because this is Malachi 1 and 2. Read it in NLT. It said, the Lord loves you, Israel. It says, I have always loved you, says the Lord. But you retort, really, how have you loved us? Because you look at the chastening, the Lord has put us through the punishment. Well, first of all, the punishment was because of our disobedience. Okay, and the Lord chastens us because he loves us. Because the chastening, what did it do? It produced correction for a remnant, and through that remnant, all Israel gonna be saved. So the Lord got to play for Israel, man. Beginning with the elect, we'll pray, and we pray that we're part of the elect, man. That we receive mercy from this wrath that's to come. Because the Lord's getting ready to lash out and judge Esau, Edom in his anger. Well, anyone that's associated with this man, and that's why taking this mark, puts you in direct association with Esau. Okay, because Esau is the target, okay, of the Lord's anger and wrath in these last days, man. And then if you make yourself an affiliate with this devil through this charagma, you're out of there, man. You're going to feel their wrath too. Okay? It says, and the Lord replies, this is how I showed my love for you. I love your ancestor Jacob. And what was given to Jacob, man? The promises. Okay? And we're descendants, all right, of those promises, man. Which Yahweh Shai is finna make good on those promises in this time. Okay? So, reading on, you see? So the Lord showed his love, by giving us promises, man. And Yahweh Shai was the Lord showing love. Okay? The Heavenly Father showed love by sacrificing Yahweh Shai to reaffirm those promises, man, with a new covenant in which we're going to be changed. You see, because Jacob look at the history of us as a people, is mostly captivity. You see, but all the time that we spent in captivity can't compare to when the Lord, blesses us with those promises given to our forefathers, man. And these captivity has been grooming us for those positions, those office, all right, the office of rulership, forever, you know. So the Lord is finna show his love to Jacob and show his hatred to Esau. It said, by rejected his brother, Esau, okay, which is what the scripture I have hated Esau, okay, and devastated his country. I turned Esau's inheritance into a desert for jackals, man. Okay. So the Lord has rejected Esau, and he's rejecting everything that Esau is doing now. The Lord is showing why Esau is rejected. And the Lord has, removed this man from power before, as the Romans. Okay. But he's finna do it again as Esau has brought Rome back, showing you how rebellious Esau is. Here it is, Rome was judged for being rebellious against Yahweh Shema Shai and being a wicked empire. All right. And what did this nigga do once he's loose? Once he was loose and allowed to come back into power? Okay, this nigga built a digital Rome. They're showing you just the rebellious of this nigga, why eventually he just gonna have to be done away with, man. Okay. Malachi 1:4 said, Esau's descendants in Edom may say, we have been scattered, but we will rebuild the ruins. But the Lord of heaven army replies, they may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. Okay, so what this devil is building out, the Lord is finna demolish again. Okay, he's going to destroy Esau, Edom, all right, power structure once and for all. And after 1,000 years, he's going to be exterminated once and for all, man. Okay, and this is our hope, man, that the Lord's getting ready to demolish this man again. Okay, and all this wicked infrastructure and these wicked systems, okay, that govern the earth, okay, and straight tyranny, man. They said their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will be called the people whom the Lord is angry forever, man. Okay, so this is where we at, man. The Lord's getting ready to demolish, okay, all this that this man is trying to establish in wickedness, man. So that's our hope. It's the patience and faith of the saints. Is what the Lord is getting ready to do. All right. So that's the point. Lord will, you brothers, okay, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations to the whole Philip. Shalom.